Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Premanandi Hare Krishna. All glorious to the assembled devotees, all glories of Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories of Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Satyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayati Nashta Praishva Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtikir. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 4, Text 7. Wow, that was fast. Okay. Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Yasya Barhishi Yagyesham.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Darshayam Asur Ochasa.
Darshayam Asurochasa.
Darshayam Asur Ochasa.
Darshayam Asurochasa. Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesha.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Darshayama Surochasa.
Darshayama
Surochasa.
Vaishnavis.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Brahmanyo Nyakuto Nabhir.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Vipra Mangala Puchita.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Yasya Barhishi Yagnesham.
Darshayama Surochasa.
Darshayama Surochasa.
Brahmanya.
Brahmanya.
A devotee of the Brahmanas.
A devotee of the Brahmanas.
Anyaha.
Anyaha.
Any other.
Any other.
Kutaha.
Kutaha.
Where is.
Where is.
Nabihi.
Nabihi.
Besides Maharaj Nabi.
Besides Maharaj Nabi.
Vipraha.
Vipraha.
The Brahmanas.
The Brahmanas.
Mangala Puchitaha.
Mangala Puchitaha.
Well worshipped and satisfied.
Well worshipped and satisfied.
Yasya.
Yasya.
Of whom.
Of whom.
Barhishi.
Barhishi.
In a sacrificial arena.
Sacrificial arena.
Yagya Isham.
Yagya.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The enjoyer of all sacrificial ceremonies.
Enjoyer of all sacrificial ceremonies.
Darshayam Asu.
Darshayam Asu.
Showed. Ochasa.
Ochasa.
By their Brahminical prowess.
By their Brahminical prowess.
Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So this is the second prayer of the old Brahmanas or sages who glorify King Nabi. Who is a better worshipper of Brahmanas than Maharaj Nabi? Because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their full satisfaction, the Brahmanas by their Brahminical prowess showed Maharaj Nabi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan in person. Purport. The Brahmanas engaged as priests in the sacrificial ceremony were not ordinary Brahmanas. They were so powerful that they could bring forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their prayers. Thus Maharaj Nabi was able to see the Lord face to face. Unless one is a Vaishnava, he cannot call forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord does not accept any invitation unless one is a Vaishnava. Therefore, it is said in the Padma Purana, Satkarma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharadaha avaishnavo gurur nasyat vaishnavasva pacho guru. A scholarly Brahmana, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But a person born in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava. These brahmanas were certainly very expert in chanting the Vedic mantras. They were competent in the performance of the Vedic rituals, and over and above this, they were Vaishnavas. Therefore, by their spiritual powers, they could call on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and enable their disciple Maharaj Nabi to see the Lord face to face. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti comments that the word ojasa means by dint of devotional service. Omagyanitimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Vistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadguru Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Who is a better worshipper of Brahmanas than Maharaj Nabi, because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their full satisfaction. The Brahmanas, by their Brahminical prowess, showed Maharaj Nabi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan in person. So, these are descriptions of the glories of King Nabi, who had so much affection for his son, Rishabh Dev, who enthroned Rishabh Dev because he was very popular and very, obviously showed all the symbols of the divine personality. And Nabi went to Badrikh Ashram, where he performed penances and perfected his life and elevated himself to Vaikuntha. That's described. And now some old sages, they glorify Nabi. And in today's shloka they say, who is a better worshipper of the Brahmanas? Because by worshipping the Brahmanas were so satisfied that they were, by their power, able to show him Lord Narayan. And Prabhupada comments that the word ojasa, in the Sanskrit, that Vishnu Chakravarti says that it has to do with by the dint of devotional service. So when we look at the translation by Vishnu Chakravarti, he says like this: the Brahmanas were pleased by his donations and other acts of the by other acts, so that auspiciousness was created, or they were worshipped by auspiciousness since the king was a devotee. And then Vishnu Chakravarti says, by the power of bhakti, they revealed the Lord to him. By the power of bhakti, they revealed the Lord to him. So I thought, let's call this lecture "But the Power of Bhakti," because I was kind of a little confused. So what should I do? We have a Bhagavatam shloka, we have a Madhavacharya's, I think, appearance day, and then we have Ram Vijay, which means Lord Ram was victorious over Ravana. And then there is also the disappearance of His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. So, and we have only 35 minutes left. So, but when we look at these different auspicious occasions, it has all to do with the power of bhakti. Right? So let's try to see the power of bhakti as a red thread through this lecture. So, by the power of bhakti, these brahmanas, they were able to call the Lord so that King Nabi could have darshan. So this is quite amazing. And what is that power that they had? It's the power of love, the power of devotion. By their devotion, by their purity, the Lord felt attracted and therefore came. And therefore these brahmanas were not just ordinary brahmanas, but they were Vaishnavas, because a Vaishnava is one who has love for Krishna. And of course this is a topic that was again and again highlighted by Prabhupada, and also of course by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. Because someone may be a Brahmana and knows about the spiritual reality or higher truth, and he might be very expert in rituals and everything, in Shastra, but if he doesn't have devotion in his heart, then what's the use of his Brahminical qualification? Whereas even a Shudra, who may be a very simple person, but if he has devotion, love in his heart, then that is much more wanted, because it's all about the power of bhakti. Because by the power of bhakti, the Lord is attracted, and not by ritualistic performance or knowledge. And we find many, in the Shastras, we find many texts that confirm these facts. First of all, who is a Brahmana? And we find quite shocking statements about who are the Brahmanas in today's world. Rakshasha Kalip Ashriya. That's how the shloka starts. Those who were Rakshasas in previous ages have taken birth as the Brahmanas in Kali Yuga to torment the physical, weak, saintly person who are engaged in the culture of hearing about the Lord. Chaitanya Bhagavat. Okay. And there's more. Different quotations in this regard. Anyway, and there is also a description of here is one from the Atri Samhita. Brahma Tattvam na janati Brahma Sutrena gaviti gavita tenye vyasa papena viprapasur udarata. A so-called Brahmana who has no spiritual knowledge, but who, out of pride, wears the thread of a Brahmana, is certainly a sinful imposer who is no better than a two-legged animal. And there is another statement by the Manu Samhita. Just as an elephant made of wood is an elephant in name only, and a deer made of leather is a deer in name only, similarly, a Brahmana who is devoid of Vedic knowledge is a Brahmana in name only. So people who just probably would say, you can go to the Loy Bazaar, and in any shop you can buy the Brahman thread. Just put a little string around your belly, and then you can, I'm a Brahmana. But that's not how you become a Brahmana. A Brahmana is by qualities, and especially by knowledge, and of course especially by knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would tell a story. He would tell many stories to make some points. There was once a landlord appointed a professional priest for regular offerings to his family Shaligram. You know that one, right? So the landlord used to arrange for the daily offering of some chestnuts, castanian, for the satisfaction of Sri Narayan. And then what did the priest do? He would close the curtain, and he would do as if he would offer the chestnuts, but actually he would take the Shaligram Shila, and with the help of the Shaligram Shila he would smash the nuts, crack the shell, and then eat the nuts himself, even before he offered it to the Lord. Can you imagine? So then Bhaktisiddhanta gives a purpose. He says, those who desire for some sense gratification with self-interest, or for liberation without devotional service, or for women, wealth, prestige, usually take recourse to such a habit as cracking the nuts with a shaligram. And he gives many other examples of those who are taking up the practice of cracking the nuts with a shaligram. And he gives all kind of description of those who have some, bad motivations. So these so-called devotees are similarly to professional priests who try to crack nuts with a shaligram, and they practice devotional service that are not considered sincere and honest. It is thus said that any prayers to the Lord for religion, wealth, peace, or liberation is tantamount to cracking a nut with a shaligram. Quite a strong statement. Any prayers for peace. Sometimes we have to, no, it's the peace, day of peace. We chant Hare Krishna for peace in the world. No, it's actually, if you look strictly at the idea of pure devotional service, that's not in line. We're not praying for peace in the world. Of course, there's nothing in a sense nothing bad. it's we all want to have peace, and we can pray for peace, but we can't call this strictly pure devotional service, because it's not that we want to do something in return. And so the fact that a Vaishnava is the greatest of all Brahmanas was also proven by whom? By Haridas Thakur. Why Haridas Thakur?
Why? He was born in a Muslim family, and then he was appointed as the Namacharya.
Yes.
Of his devotion, the holy name.
That's true. Yeah, that's completely true. But who proved that fact?
Advaitacharya.
Yes, Advaitacharya. Acharya kahine tumina kariya bhaya se archari bhaye shastra mata hoya. So after Advaitacharya offered Haridas Thakur the Shraddha Patra, which is usually offered to a worshipable Brahmana, Haridas Thakur was surprised. Like there was a huge assembly, they did this like some Shraddha ceremony, and after the Shraddha ceremony, the first plate of prasadam should be offered to the most respectable Brahmana, the most senior devotee. Like even when we have an assembly, if there's some senior devotees there, then usually we try to give some plate to the seniors first. And so Advaita gave that plate to Haridas. Although there were many qualified Brahmanas, and Haridas was just actually from a mature background, so he was like surprised. Then reassuring him, Advaita Acharya replied, "My dear Haridas, do not be afraid. I shall behave strictly according to the principle of the revealed scriptures. Feeding you is equal to feeding 10 million Brahmanas. Therefore, accepting this Shraddha Patra." Thus, Advaita Acharya made him eat. No, giving one plate of prasad to one Vaishnava is equal to giving plate to 10 million Brahmanas. Quite a strong statement. And then there is another statement from the Bhakti Sandarbha. Among many thousands of Brahmanas, a Yakyakya Brahmana is best. That's like the best among the Brahmana who receives that Shraddha plate. Among thousands of Yakyakya Brahmanas, one who fully knows Vedanta is best. Among millions of knowers of Vedanta, one who is a devotee of Vishnu is best. And among those of thousands of devotees of Vishnu, one who is an unalloyed Vaishnava is best. So the Vaishnava is the best among all these Brahmanas. Why? Because he has love for Krishna. And that again proves the power of bhakti. So by the power of bhakti, one becomes very dear to the Lord, because by that love one will be able to bound up Krishna in their heart. So today is also the appearance day of Madhava Acharya, who was also a Brahmana and a great Vaishnava, of course. Madhava Acharya, all known as Madhava or Ananda Tirtha, of course was a very important Acharya in our line. And he is known as the founder of the Dvaita school of Vedanta, the dualistic school, which clearly established or emphasized the dualistic relationship between the individual soul and the Supreme Being, the Jiva and the Lord. Therefore we see pictures with this. Like sometimes we also make, but Madhvacharya made this because, Jiva and Bhagavan, Atma and Paramatma. To make clear there's two. So in contrast to the Advaita, to the non-dualistic philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya's Dvaita philosophy argues for a clear distinction between individual soul and God. Right? And he emphasized that while the Jiva are dependent on God, they remain separate from him. He basically outlined the concept of 5 eternal and fundamental distinctions. This distinction between God and the individual soul, Jiva and Brahman, then between God and matter, Prakriti, between different individual souls, between souls and matter, and between different material objects. So in this way he established his Dvaita philosophy. And of course, speaking of the power of bhakti, also here Madhva Acharya emphasized bhakti, particularly to Vishnu or Krishna, as the primary means for achieving perfection. And anyone has been to the Udupi Krishna temple? You been? Oh, that's I also. You been also? Try. I also. I really love this temple. It's amazing. Like in the morning, you can witness. You can go there and you can see the puja they offer. They do. I don't know, for hours, 2 hours. They just offer one light after the other. Like this lamp and the other lamp, that lamp. So many different lamps they offer. Very elaborate worship they perform to this small. There's a small Krishna deity. Krishna holding a butter butterstock, butter stick or something, churning rod. Krishna holding that. So it's a form of Gopal. And they have an elaborate worship in the morning with all this puja. Then also they are very fond of dressing. They have all kind of veshas, similarly to Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri. They dress Udupi Krishna in all kind of veshas. Yeah, I mean any avatar you can think of, they put him in this kind of dress. And also every evening they have Ratha Yatra. We have Ratha Yatra once a year, and we are proud of it. We have a big Ratha Yatra festival. But in German-speaking area we have like about 10 Ratha Yatras. So we went, wow, we have 10 Ratha Yatras. We're doing quite well in Europe. But they have Ratha Yatra every single day. And not just, it's a big festival, hundreds and thousands of people. And then, according to who is donating, every evening someone is donating the festival. And according to the donation, the Lord is either carried on a wooden chariot, sometimes they have chariots, they also have palanquins. They have kind of a wooden throne, they have a silver throne, a golden throne, and like a jewel throne. And then before the Lord goes to the chariot and does the parikram, the Lord goes on a boat ride. They have a pond. There is a boat festival every evening. It's like huge. And then is the parade. Have you seen the parade?
No.
In the evening it's like, and then like the parade, and then there is a huge chariot is going around the monasteries. Because in the Udupi Krishna temple there is 8 monasteries with 8 different acharyas, and every one of them has their own disciples. It's like 8 gurus with their followers in their ashram, and 8 ashrams around the temple. And every year or so, a different acharya takes over the worship, and then the next acharya with their disciples. And then they have a huge parade around the temple complex. And then you see that they have their own temple elephant, like it's common in South India. And then the temple elephant, in his how you call it, Rüssel, in his, trunk, trunk. Yeah. He on the top he holds a jamara and he fans the Lord, and he walks backwards. And so you have the chariot, and in front is an elephant who walks backwards and fans. It's just like it's like something. And then people doing kirtan kind of. I mean, kirtan is like very loud, like bum 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 bum, dan 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 dan. Huge celebration. And also in the history, we know there is this famous story. Speaking of the power of devotion, there is the famous story of Kanakadhas, who was a very saintly devotee of the Lord, but he was from a low-class background. And that time it was the tradition that only brahmanas or high-class people would be allowed to enter the temple to see Krishna. And the low-class people were not allowed to go. But there was a, I'm not sure, there is different version of the story, but I believe there was a window on the side, so those who were not allowed to enter, they could just look through the window, but they could just see the Lord from a very distance, and the Lord would face in a different direction. You could just see him from the side. But then Udupi Krishna was so much moved by Kanaka's pure devotion that actually the deity turned around and looked to him. You know the story better, right? Yeah, you? No, okay. Yeah, but the point is that the deity turned, and since that I think the deity has been worshipped in this direction or something. In any case, but it's a miracle when the deity turns around, just to reciprocate with the devotion of that low-class, so-called low-class Shudra, and then the Brahmanas understood, oh, okay, maybe the power of devotion is more important than the birth in which caste one takes birth. So in this way, Bhakti also plays a very important role in the life of Madhava Acharya. Okay, and then Ram Vijay. So you see I'm jumping from one to the next, but that's today's. So of course Lord, the Ramayana is also full of bhakti. Hanuman is the symbolic representation of bhakti. Hanuman is full of bhakti. He dedicates his whole life to the service of the Lord. And today is a day which is called Ram Vichayotsava, or Ram Vichai, or Dussehra also called, which is quite an important festival that celebrates Lord Ram's victory over the demon Ravana, which of course symbolizes the triumph over good over evil. Right? And let's see. Yeah, maybe we can just try to speak a little bit about the war in Lanka. So we know how they build a bridge over the sea, and then the army of monkeys cross the ocean and start to attack Lanka. And of course the Rakshasas, which were much more powerful. The Rakshasas, just by their bodily feature and by their training and by their weapon, in any means they were much more powerful than the monkeys. Monkeys are just, I mean, of course they were not ordinary monkeys, but still, the monks didn't really had, so much training, and they were also they only holding some stones and some sticks like that. They're monkeys, like what do you expect? But then the Rakshasas, they were very powerful with all kind of weapons. But the monkeys had much more devotion. Again, the power of bhakti, because they had so much devotion, so much bhakti, and especially had so much enthusiasm to fight for the Lord, Ram, they became much more powerful. Because that's a very important aspect in warfare also, the mentality or the state of mind of the warriors. If the warriors can feel like defeated or they're not really enthusiastic, then So the monkeys were much more kind of determined to fight than the Rakshasas. So in a very short time, the monkeys kind of, overpowered the Rakshasas, so that Ravana really became concerned. So what's going on here? We need some support. So what did he do? He woke up whom? Kumbhakarna. It's like the description you find. It's like, oh my God, like, who was Kumbhakarna? He was Lord Ravana's brother, and he was cursed to sleep always. It's described how the brothers, Ravana, Vibhishana, Kumbhakarna, they did severe tapasyas, and finally when Lord Brahma appeared and they were supposed to get blessings from Brahma, and the Devas, they were concerned, oh my God, now if this Kumbhakarna he's already powerful, now if he gets some blessings, then you're really in trouble. So then when it was time for Kumbhakarna to ask his blessings, Saraswati Devi jumped on his tongue, and Saraswati just turned some Sanskrit words or something, and the meaning what came out was, I want to sleep. So be it. And then Kumbhakarna basically was just sleeping. And he was that huge mountain of a monster, huge mountain of a monster, but he would mainly sleep because that's the blessing he received. But from time to time they would wake him up because he also needs to eat something, and so like, I don't know, every other kalpa, so they would wake him up. But it was not so easy to wake him up. He would sleep in a cave, and like once a year they would wake him up, offering him a mountain of blood and flesh, and then he would again fall asleep. But to wake him up was not so easy. It's described like hundreds of horses and chariots, they would kind of riding on his belly, and hundreds of elephants, they would on the side would kind of push him, and with swords and weapons they would kind of beat him and stick him, somehow trying to wake them up. And all together, the whole army, and then somehow they were able to wake him up, and they immediately offered him a pool of blood and meat, and then he was ready. And then they told him, Ravana wants you to see you. And then when Kumbhakarna appears on the battlefild, Ram, Lakshman, they looked at, they asked, what is this? Not who is this, but what is this? Like this monster. And then Vibhishana says, this is my brother, Kumbhakarna. And Kumbhakarna was very, furious, and he said, oh, Ravana, today you will enjoy Sita. No, I will finish them off all. I will finish them off altogether. And Kumbhakarna, he like a huge monster. He was walking on the battlefield, and basically with every step, he would kind of, crush hundreds and thousands of monkey soldiers. With his hand, he would just grab some of the monkey soldiers and just kind of finish them. So it was quite a scene. And then, of course, Ram understood that this is really serious. So it's described that he would kind of, with 2 arrows, he should cut off the arms, and then with 1,000 arrows, he shot 1,000 arrows in his mouth, and then in this way killed him, and then he kind of cut off the head, and with another arrows he kind of sent the head in front of Ravan's door. And then of course Ravana was completely depressed when he saw this. So then he sent his eldest son named Indrajit. Indrajit, as the name suggests, he was able to even defeat Indra. So he had all mystical powers, and there was a huge fight between him. He even killed Lakshman, and of course they regained life because Hanuman got to the peak of mountain, and they got the herbs and all of that. Time is up. And finally, there was the duel between Ravana and Lord Ram. And when these 2 leaders kind of the armies, they started to fight with each other. All the other warriors, they kind of put the weapons aside and they were just like watching the fight in the air. Like these two celestial chariots were flying in the air, they were fighting with each other. Everyone was just observing. And it's described how Ram shooted on Ravan's head. And we know Ravan had 10 heads, and he cut off the heads, but they would all again come up again and again. He would cut off a head, and then the head, whoop, again the head would be there. So he cut another head, whoop, whoop, again the head came back all the time. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, who very lively describes this pastime, he would comment that this is because Ravana represents lust desires. And that's exactly, sometimes we think, okay, now I have defeated my lusty desires, now I'm very paka, devotee, and I'm pure now, I'm free. But lust again comes up, and again comes up. We may defeat lust for some time, and again it comes up, and again it comes up. So it's very difficult to overcome lust. But then Vibhishana, Ravan's brother, who had taken the side of Ram, he told him a secret. Ravana got a boon that his head and arms would never be destroyed, and that they always would grow back. Because in Ravan's heart there was a store of nectar which renewed the life in his body. There was kind of in the heart there was kind of a nectar, and from there, there was life-giving. When any limbs of his body would be cut off, it would immediately grow back. And therefore, the only way to kill him was to strike at his heart with a divine weapon. And then, remembering a mantra given by Agastya Muni, he chanted this Aditya Hridhay prayer, and a celestial bow appeared, like a very special Brahmastra kind of, and Ram invoked this Brahmastra and shoot an arrow into the heart of Ravan, and then the heart broke into pieces. Ravan vomited blood, his 20 eyes rolled, and he fell from the sky like a flying mountain that was cut off the wings by Indra. He fell on the ground, causing a great earthquake, and then he was died. Lord Ramachandra ki Jai. And then it's described that by killing Ravana, the Lord demonstrated how we can also overcome lust. Are you interested in knowing the secret? No? Because there were three things, with these three aspects, Lord Ram was able to kill Ravan. The first was he got a tip or a hint by Vibhishana. Vibhishana gave him the hint, you should do it like this. So this stands for Sadhu Sangha. We need always the association of Vaishnavas. So by keeping ourselves in the association of devotees, we get a lot of strength to fight against lust. Then he received a celestial weapon by Agastya Muni. Without that celestial weapon, Lord Ram would not have been able to kill Ravana. It was a special blessing that Lord Ram received. So that stands for the mercy of Guru. We need to receive the mercy of the spiritual master if we want to overcome lust. Without the blessings of Guru, we're not able to defeat this enemy in the heart. And then the Lord not only got the hint and the weapon, but he also chanted the Aditya Hridaya mantra, a special mantra, which was able to invoke that weapon or give it power, Shakti. And that mantra, of course, stands for the holy name Vishnu. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can overcome lust. So these three things, with these three, the demon of lust can be conquered also in our hearts. Sadhu Sangha, the mercy of the spiritual master, and the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So in this way the power of bhakti has been proven again, by the power of bhakti. But, by the power of the divine, of course, Ravana was killed. And another example of power of bhakti, especially in the way of serving one's spiritual master, is His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. Ki Jai. His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and of course there have been many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples who have been